Good evening, everybody. Enormous audience tonight. I'd like to call this meeting of the Hanson Conservation Commission to order at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, November 1st, 2023. As posted, this meeting of the Hanson Conservation Commission is now open under the State Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Hanson Local Bylaw, Article 3-13, Section 5. This opening statement will apply for business conducted at this meeting. And per standard procedure, this meeting of the Commission is being audio recorded. Roll call, please.
Lisa, Ed Hill, T.J. Early, Dave Mansfield,
Phil Clemens.
Lon Woodward.
Frank Skellin.
And we have 100% of our commissioners present and staff, and one of our associate commissioners present. So we will proceed with our agenda. First thing, let's look at the minutes of October 18th. I believe those are all in hand. A great deal of the previous meeting was dedicated to the Lakeside Road project. That is reported faithfully here.
mentioned she already adjusted the line about the steeple property.
Okay, help me out with which page, the back page?
The sign, yeah.
Good.
Accusation, the steeple property.
Yes.
She just didn't the sign maybe installed.
Oh, okay. To install, let's insert the word sign. Proposed by the Commission to install sign at the southern end. Yes, thank you for that appropriate amendment. Chair is open to any other comments besides the one amendment we have already. Or motions for perhaps approval.
So moved.
So, Chair, here's a motion to approve the minutes of October 18th as amended with that one word. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 500. Minutes are approved. Public hearings, we have none scheduled for tonight. That's a bit of workload relief. Appointments, none. Similar. We may move directly to our discussions. On the agenda, I see a request for certificate of compliance for 480 Pleasant Street, map 16, lot 15B for Paul J. Stearns with that DEP number. I believe I've heard from the staff that we're still waiting for something, and maybe we could just clarify what we're waiting for on that.
Engineer certification letter and as-built.
So we do not have everything we need. And so it would seem to the chair to be appropriate to not take further action tonight, except to note what is being waited for and see if it comes up in the near future. Next item we see here, request for minor modification for plan to modify the driveway at the gas utility regulator site along Whitman Street regarding water runoff. Requires a vote. I see a sketch here. Perhaps we may hear from our agent regarding details on that.
When Eversource paved their driveway, they paved it a little high, and so the water ran out into the street. And the highway superintendent, director, objected to that because the water would puddle there and freeze in the winter. So he recommended to them that they cut down the driveway paving so that the water would run to the rear of the building instead, to where the detention basin is. And the sketch supposedly shows how the water will run. The driveway is the straight piece to the left, and Whitman Street water will run off toward the back, toward the wetland in the back. So I would recommend that that be considered a minor modification to the plan.
My comments are, I believe I saw that same puddle, that long, unexpected puddle accumulating along the south shoulder of Whitman Street, to which one may say, oh, rats. But then one responds with this kind of action here.
Jameson is in a hurry for them to get it done because he
Yeah.
knows that life is going to be colder.
It's going to be chilly tonight, but we have probably a little time to do this. I must say, compared to the other engineering drawings we've seen of the site, this one looks a little casual.
A little, yeah.
Did they say it was the best they could do? I'm thinking this would be improved by putting a date on it. But basically, it seems like a simple fix. Comments, thoughts by the commission?
Well, we certainly need to fix it. I can't really tell what they're doing
So are they,
from this.
so
There
they're,
wasn't anything.
they're ripping up the existing pavement?
Yeah.
Are they repaving, or will be a dirt driveway now?
No, they're going to repave
It'll
it.
be repaved at a elevation of, that allows for drainage
Cut
according to
down
the
the
Ford's
underlying,
node.
It seems to say drop elevation for proper drainage.
yeah. They'll cut down the underlying gravel, repave.
So basically, have a little bit of a swale going off to the east, because Whitman Street runs east and west there, pretty much. Seems simple. They do that, gravity will do the rest. Any thoughts or concerns, or? Seeing no further concerns and having this documentation, such as it is, in hand, and communication from our agent, the chair would entertain a motion to approve this request for minor modification to this project as documented.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Was that discussion or a question?
No.
Let's move to the vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? 5-0-0. Minor modification request is approved. I would just put a note saying that if this drawing is going to go in the file, we should put an approximate date on it, just because they always need these things. One never knows. So, good
Do
stuff.
you have one that was stamped in?
I believe so,
Yeah. Use that tape.
yeah.
And I'm surprised that the engineering details will just be let go. Conservation property status. One thing that occurs to me, looking at that part of the agenda, is we had some monitoring activity. There's something like 6 separate properties we have with conservation restrictions on them, or CRs, and they require annual monitoring by the CR holder, which I believe in all cases is the Wildlands Trust. And in late October, 3 of those properties were visited by the Wildlands Trust. They were accompanied by yours truly and Mr. Mansfield, and as some people sometimes say, a good time was had by most. It was useful, and the reports are here. I believe everyone has a full copy of each. Maybe just quickly skim them in the order in which we did them. We started with the Core Meadow Confluence one. That's the property whose parking lot is on West Washington Street, and there really wasn't much to say, except that the place looks terrific. And the water levels are a tad lower because beaver management by the MBTA did happen. But again, the property looks really good. It's encouraging that that is the property on which we have a adopt trail steward in place, one Mr. Kevin Sullivan. And so that happened. Besides the part that's accessible by, from West Washington Street, we accessed it through two other locations too, because the parcel were actually far flung. The one south of the river, down by the railroad tracks towards the rail station, we accessed it from Station Street. That's not the easiest walk, because we don't really own the intervening property, but there's good relations with all property owners there. But that looked good as well. And while we were down there, we made our way off to the west or southwest to visit what they call the Poor Meadowbrook Greenway, CR, otherwise known as the Peterson property. It was separately purchased, I think, more than a decade ago. Again, no concerns there. It's in good shape. It's pretty remote, so there's no littering. Didn't even see a fallen balloon from the sky, but there might have been one or two. That was fine. We also, just to wrap up the Poor Meadowbrook Confluence Fund, we accessed it from Home Street through the courtesy of Gary and Barbara Bannock, who are our butters, and they also have 65 acres of their own back there. And we looked at the rear of the residential properties along Home Street there, and we reminded ourselves by finding and looking at it that on our property there has been, since way before we owned it, the remnants of a radio beacon and chain link fence enclosure that was associated with the South Weymouth Naval Air Station. Someday, it'd be nice to clean that up, but that's really just right now a collapsed, small, very small building and a big old fence that has a big old hole in it. And the third place we visited, and this is perhaps the most interesting, we visited the steeper conservation restriction. The 13 acres that took almost that many years to acquire, thanks to the title work. And the woods themselves certainly inspect very well. It's as nice as we've always been telling people it is. But as the record shows, let's see, 1, 2, 3, the fourth page in documents a little bit of unwelcome neighbor activity, which is a brush chipper and a pile of firewood. And we were surprised by that. And what Tess Goldman, who was the Wildlands Trust person, recommended, and we felt it was appropriate, is that when you find something like that that should not be there, and the monitor officially finds it in photographs and everything, they have the option of issuing what they call a warning notice or a letter, and that draft is in our, or not draft, it's been signed already, is in our hands. What I'm not sure of, and I have a guess, but is the method of delivering this to the appropriate party. Dave, I seem to recall that she implied we should find who the party is and do the delivery.
Yeah.
One thing that could be done very, very quickly is to take this letter and put it in a weatherproof enclosure and attach it firmly to the chipper.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I suspect it belongs to the person who lives right out in front of it, a couple hundred feet away,
Right.
connected by a very walkable, almost drivable old cart path. So besides putting this letter out there, I'd like to find out from the appropriate records who lives in that house. At one time, not now, but some years ago, it was occupied by one Mr. Jeff Keeney, who did convey it to someone else, who's there now. And I don't know the address, but it's a retreat lot off of Quan Street. So we're going to have to get this delivered.
Yeah.
deal with people with the driveway on our property.
What was the last name, Keeney?
Well, the previous owner.
Yeah.
Keaney.
Okay.
But the successor owner to that, I think the assessor's office is probably the best place to go.
Yeah, you might be able to find his name in it.
Right, and whatever that address is, it's a low number on Pond Street.
Okay.
You can use the town assessors.
Yeah, I think the assessor's office.
No, but that's apparatus, like, even like Google, like our house, and tell you Google.
Oh, well, there's probably that too, but by whatever means,
Right, but I mean, the assessor's database is public record.
Yeah, and we
The
can just-
name, the address, the map and parcel, any combination thereof.
Right.
Should we send Well, he could email the address. a copy of this letter to the abutters, just,
I would not, because it's not addressed to the, well, there's one abutter who we think it is, and I'd like to do them the courtesy of, shall we say, conversing about this and giving them the opportunity to politely remove said intrusion.
Well, without accusing them, we could simply ask them if they know anything about it.
Yeah, that would be the way to open the polite conversation. So,
Did we have this property surveyed when we took
yes,
title?
Joe Webby surveyed it, and he marked all the bounds. And we actually, Dave and I walked the bounds back when it was first done with the Wildlands Trust, and they saw the bounds. And some of the bounds are obvious, some are probably the relief covered, but he put in pins with orange caps on the corners. And wherever the description is of the survey project, that would be good to just pull out and have handy, and so on. I guess the question on our table now is, who will have the polite conversation, do you know anything about this? As well as, once we discover, let's say, this landowner, who is the person to first converse with, I think, that may be something that the agent would be delighted to do. I don't know.
Delighted looks like a strong word.
Once he gets his feet back in this time zone. But simply as a point, but I know I'd be willing to accompany if it was appropriate, or I'm sure Dave would too. Because we saw the thing, here's the photo. But I think a cordial conversation is appropriate. But also an explanation of why we monitor. This is the kind of thing that if commissions never do these things, or no one ever does on their behalf, it's just not good management. Encroachment of all kinds happens, and it has happened, and I'm sure this is not the last time it will ever happen. But
With all this in mind, there was also that deer stand that we didn't really decide how we wanted to look at that.
It might be, if one is engaged in conversation with this abutter or whomever, I say, do you know anything about this? And they may.
Well, my thought is that we need some sort of a guideline about deer stands.
We already do, it's called state law. And what we would do is point out that this one appears to be quite close to a residence. It does not appear to be 500 feet away. If it were the property of the person whose residence it was close to, the issue de-escalates.
Right.
But we don't know that.
Right.
But I'm thinking, and this is for the commissioning laws, I'm thinking we make our lives and our management lives simpler if we simply continue to invoke state law on stuff like this.
Well, that's fine as far as the 500 feet, but do we need any kind of guideline as to how many of them, or if there's a process for permission? I mean, you can't just go on somebody's private property and put a deer stand up, can you?
Actually, no, but this is not private property, it's
No,
public
no,
property.
but-
And I guess if, I'm not against having a policy, I just want to make sure we suggest we keep it simple
Yeah.
and decide what day we're going to start. In this particular case, I think we start with this particular stand. I don't know if we can say what our policy should look like.
Right.
But we are on record of having facilitated removal of another deer stand from conservation property
I certainly
a
don't
few
think
years
we
ago.
should be encouraging the installation of deer stands, duck blinds, or anything else without our, maybe not permission, but certainly acknowledgement.
Yeah, I wonder if, and this is just speculation, I wonder if in the language of, let's say, a kiosk that explains the conservation area, we somehow put in a requirement, a simple requirement like that, in notifying the conservation office. At the same time, I don't want people to go, oh, open season on installing things, all we gotta do is just let the office know. I can tell you that deer hunting etiquette, for example, this thing here, is that you wouldn't have multiple people putting up a lot of stands all right next to each other. That just, as they say, is not done. But there is a, both written laws and unwritten etiquette that we're dancing around with here. But I think basically, certainly compliance with the written laws and however we communicate to the hunting public how we want them to ask, that's an open question, right? I just don't know the right process.
Well, what about this? What if we do a little research on what maybe DCR and Fish and Wildlife have as a policy?
I think that's a great place to start. There may be a very simple thing to imitate there, a model,
Right.
and let's figure it out. One thing that I think we discussed a little bit but belongs in this discussion is we don't want things to be put up and then left there on a permanent basis. We'd like them to come down after seasons are over. These things are not meant to be permanent. They can harm the trees, and if they leave spikes or lag bolts or cables in, on, or around a tree, that's not a good thing. So that's part of the, I think, the protocol that we'd be looking at.
Well, and that addresses TJ's point with, if we know where they are and who they belong to, and then if we find that they're deteriorated or there's some,
Or they're not removed,
yeah, then at least we know who to contact as opposed to just there they are.
or if there's a bill for removal, who to send the bill to.
Yeah, whatever, but at least we know.
Yeah. Good. I think those are good points. Any other thoughts? We'll see what state agencies require and dictate in these areas, and learn everything we can from them, but then proceed towards a policy of our own.
Sounds good.
So anyway, that wraps up the CR part of our recent conservation property management. What else, if anything, is there to say about property status?
Well, there's plenty to say about that. Of course, we have this Phragmites.
Okay, that actually comes under the management thing,
Right.
status. I guess we're done with that. Let's move to the management. Dave, you have the floor if you're talking about the Phragmites.
Well, Phragmites, they were there. I spoke with them. They were there. This is their report. So, I guess the next step is to see what happens with the Phragmites.
Well, it does say in here that, which ones are looking at? There's two reports, one for the Kent Quaney part of the property, and one for the Smitty's Bog part. And it says, on the additional notes from the biologist, is we will return to cut/mulch the dead Phragmites later this year. I don't know, there's not much of the year left, but presumably they would do that. The date of the treatment was the 19th of October. I wonder if the dying of this year's growth will happen faster because of what they did. Because every year, the growth dies.
Right.
And turns from green to yellowish. So the date of their predicted future cutting is not yet known to us, right?
Right.
says by waiting 8+ weeks, I think, I heard someone mention 8 weeks.
It would return in no less than 8 weeks.
Which would mean December 19th, or thereabouts.
Right.
Who knows what the weather will be like. So we will stay tuned. Maybe in early December, we reach out to them and say, is your work schedule going to include a return visit like your report says? And then we'll perhaps know. Is that something that the staff could do, let's say about a week or so into December? Reach back to water and wetland? How does that sound, Frank? Reasonable?
Yeah.
Well, glad they were here. Their very cool machine, which I think I heard is an Argo track low ground pressure amphibious UTV. That's different from the Marshmaster that was used by the previous contractor, but it looks no less cool, maybe even more cool. So, Chris, you ever think about one of these? They look pretty cool. I know you're the master of cool equipment. Well, we'll just leave that in the hands of the water and wetland people. What else have we managed lately, property-wise?
Well, the other thing is, after our meeting with Tony DeFrias, the town planner, he asked us to give him some drawing, designs, and quotes for building this boardwalk, I guess you want to call it. And we also discussed doing something with the parking lot down in Clifford Place, so.
Right, this is the South Hanson area, neighborhood, and our primary, at this point, our primary access point from South Hanson to Burridge is by means of the Bay Circuit Trail. And two things regarding that are a very wet place, which is near but not on Department of Fish and Game property, and also the very, very informal, but still, I think it's both informal and official parking area just the other side of the tracks at Crooker Place.
Right. So I met with Dan Del Preet there, we could go to Sunday, I forget what the date was. And actually, he gave me a quote for the parking lot, which is attached, and he also gave me a separate one for supplying granite, basically a foundation for the bridge, and to also transport the material in there to build it. That's not attached here, but the amount was $3,200 for that.
$3,200 for both, or for the grant for the bridge?
For the grant for the bridge and to transport the material. I did a little research on I did have a drawing here, and the specs are based on some research I did on spans. So 12-inch on center, 2x12 number 1 pressure treated spruce pine fir, has a 24-foot span with a 35-pound snow load. It's 40 pounds is the code for this area, so I talked to Dan. We're going to decrease the span from a maximum of 24 to a maximum of 20, maybe as low as 18, so it should be more than adequate. More than adequate for this area. So Tony has this, and now we're just waiting to get word from.
Are we doing 12-inch on center because of the snow load?
In order to meet the specs, we have to go 12-inch on center. The specs are 40-pound load, live load. So that's the reason for the 2x12. We have Samson Lumber can get them for us. And then there's 2 ramps on each side of it that will get us to the drive upland on each
So
side.
this has him placing the concrete, blocks, and then us building it, or him building it?
No, that's building.
Okay.
Help, volunteer help.
Yeah.
So Tony has it.
Yeah.
This is what we need to do. I talked to Dan about expanding that parking lot. He's going to go from that dead snag of a tree, take that out. So he's going to go from there to basically the fence, the Keola's fence.
Right.
And from the paved road to the gate.
Yeah. The fence is, there's a swale on their side of the fence, right, alongside the railroad there. Yeah. Background on why we're discussing this with Tony DeFrias is there is the fairly widely discussed earmark funds available for several purposes to the town of Hanson, courtesy of our legislative delegation. And one of the purposes is to create a boardwalk access from, let's just say, South Hanson into the Burridge Wildlife Management Area. This commission and others are well aware that the Bay Circuit Trail enjoys special permission from the Department of Fish and Game to exist. It is state policy to not either encourage or even frankly allow other people to make trails on their property. We're sensitive to that, and this would not be that, but it would also, in our view and in the town planner's view, be a legitimate use of the earmark funds, and therefore accomplish a very good thing that the trail needs and trail users need. I met a couple of trail users right outside this building recently, and we discussed this area and many other things regarding their trail experience in Hanson. And this could accomplish that without touching conservation funds. It would allow those to be used for other purposes, which we have no shortage of. It's our understanding, informally, through Mr. DeFrias, that other parties looking at the economics of South Hanson were somewhat cool to this proposal because we think they have perhaps another pet idea about a different place for a boardwalk, but we lack information about that, and we also lack any assurance that the private properties it would be on, it's all been worked out. This would require us to do something though, because it would be actually on the Hubble property, and we are negotiating with Hubble hopefully for the purchase of 45 acres of the property, formerly the Lake Control property, the part near Crooker Place, and either that or an easement allowing the trail to go through what now is legally a gap on the Bay Circuit Trail from our 5-acre Crooker Place thing, the Indian Crossway Conservation Area, to the edge of Burridge Pond Wildlife Management Area. So there are complexities to go way above and beyond the bridge design, but in order to have the right conversations with other parties in Town Hall, we needed to produce these specifications. Because these other parties, we saw documentation of this, had a plan to potentially engage an outside engineering firm to the tune of $40,000 to examine the possibility of where and how to install the boardwalk. We explained to Mr. DeFrias, to the town planner, we don't think that would be a wise use of that $40,000. We believe the engineering expertise exists here. It is very simple, and qualified folks provided this information. Thank you, Mr. Mansfield. And we also urged, through Mr. DeFrias, any other parties to say, would this not be the right place for a boardwalk? There are other questions that haven't even been posed, never mind answered, regarding other plans. But this is an existing need. And the access which the boardwalk would provide would be facilitated by an upgraded parking arrangement at the end of Crooker Place. So all of that is background to what we just got in front of us here. But what our main task right now is really twofold. One is to continue to engage with Hubble so that before the deadline for spending this earmark money ends, which is a couple of years away, but still that goes by fast, get either the purchase or the easement in place. Secondly is to remain cordially engaged with other parties in Town Hall about what other ideas they might have. Because this is our proposal for this purpose. And again, town planner was very positively inclined. So
you're talking, time frame is probably 2 years out before we go to the bridge?
Well, hopefully not.
hopefully less. I spoke to Joan Pierce just a couple of days ago about it, because the state and we together are negotiating with Hubble about their remaining property, which except for the piece where they're still actively mitigating problems right down on Crooked Place, not on Hawks Avenue. They gain nothing by owning it, they simply are getting taxed on it. And our appraisal has been placed into their hands, Lon, you did that, right? Back in September, early September, we did that. We stand by the appraisal that town paid for a couple of years ago, and we just need them to respond on that. One other thing, we ought to, and this is based on my conversation with Joan, whatever we sent to that gentleman whose name escapes me, John something or other, it was an odd last name, simply forward that email to Joan saying, FYI,
Okay.
yes, this, on behalf of the town of Hanson, this was transmitted on that date, so that you're simply aware of that. And she may refer to it, because it actually talked about other things besides the one parcel we're interested in.
I'll do that tomorrow.
Thank you, that would be great. So,
Okay.
we seek those things.
In other topics, I got a call through Lon from Nicole Riley about looking to talk to us about mowing, and I think she wanted to talk about fertilizing meadows. So once again, I called her, and once again, I left her messages, and once again, she didn't return my calls. So I'll have to track her down at the next Historical Society meeting. And
She called the other day, so there was
Again?
a voicemail. Yeah, and I kind of gave Phil the heads up. He felt that just to put her on the next agenda.
Right, that's what I've been trying to
So I
get her to do.
I called her back after I talked to Phil
Did she
and
pick
said,
up the phone?
no. I got her voicemail, but I
But
told
she
her,
told me she doesn't check her messages.
oh, maybe,
She leaves messages, but she doesn't check her
I mean,
own.
I could probably
She
send her,
told me that.
maybe when I get the agenda stamped by town clerk, I'll mail it to her.
Yeah,
For next November
here's the
15th.
thing, I was just gonna get to that. The right place for all parties to properly serve both the interests and their responsibilities, the right place for her to come is to one of our meetings. That's the only way we make decisions.
Well, I've already told her that face to face.
But, in order to really facilitate that, I think getting things to her in writing, and if it comes to it, not just a letter, maybe eventually certified letter. I don't mean to be hard to her, but I'd like to be as friendly and cordial as possible. But maybe others besides me hear this, but there are people in the public who aren't crazy about the horse gifties on the trail. And we do know there is some material in the first meadow that appears to be from them that we'd like them to clean up.
Right,
And whatever else there is to discuss, and there are other things,
right,
this is where we would do it.
right.
Thoughts?
No, I agree, and I told her that.
We've previously discussed getting her to a meeting, which is what David's been trying to schedule.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll up that ante then.
Yeah, and I'll send the agenda out
All
Yeah.
right.
to her.
Yeah, well, in fact, my thought is either directly or in general, but maybe even very specifically,
that's fine.
put her on our agenda.
Yeah.
So that whenever she is able to show up, she's there and we can legally
Okay.
discuss it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that indicate to her, she is on our agenda. Please help us.
Okay.
Well, there's that. Update on the signs. Did you get them mounted on the place? So Steve and Chris and I dug the holes for the posts. I cut the holes.
This is along the Bonny Hill Trail.
Bonny Hill Trail. I cut the posts this afternoon. Chris has made mounting plates for them and attached the signs to those. And tomorrow, hopefully we'll get them all installed.
Should be a good day to do it.
And Dan Dell's gonna drop 5 yards of reprocessed asphalt for planting the posts and also to put some water bars and regrade that road from the paved road to the parking lot.
From our parking lot on Pierce Ave,
Right.
uphill, that area needs those things.
So hopefully we get all that done tomorrow. It's just not an awful lot of work, and it looks like we got at least 3 of us.
Are you gonna do like a swale?
No, we're gonna
Water bar?
make a couple of water bars.
Like, what are you gonna use for water bar? Just-
I got some pavers coming,
Oh, okay.
so they're gonna deliver those. So anyway, it shouldn't take too long with 3 or 4 of us there, so I have to deal with that. The mowing thing, we're gonna work on specs, I guess, right?
Right, what we have in hand, and it's not to delay anything, but having it printed out is very helpful. The best management practices for mowing grasslands, we have several different good authorities here. And I think what we'll do is we'll cherry pick the important points from those and have hopefully a one-sided, one-page mowing policy for our fields. And then we'll follow whoever does it and whenever, but it will lay out the guidelines.
Right.
I'm very pleased with it. By the way, if you look at the cover of one of these things, it's the Mass Audubon sheet. It says, best management practice for nesting grassland birds. The upper right-hand corner is a meadowlark. I actually saw a meadowlark there about 10 years ago on the northernmost meadow, when it was a little bit less grown in than it had become. It'd be nice to see them again. But the idea is to, again, cherry pick the most relevant things and go with it.
The only other couple of things I had was the next little project, we have to reinstall the signs at Point Apple Brook. And maybe not all of them, but a lot of them are just, they're so loose that they're about ready to fall down.
The posts are swaying in their little
Right.
holes.
I think they just want to install very well, so.
Yes.
Now, we got that down on science. Next project is that, and also to clear the trail from the parking lot to the stream. It's kind of overgrown, and it doesn't
Yes.
look very inviting. So those are small projects, but we should be able to do that quickly.
And by the way, that trail, I think at least two things it calls for. One is, in season, I suppose, tree poison ivy is growing onto the trail. But secondly, there's some very invasive things there, like multiflora rose.
Right.
And those are the most annoying things.
So the only other thing there was, we're going to put some steps at the bridges we put in last year. It's a small project. I can pre-assemble them. We just bring them in and screw them to the bridges. It's kind of a high step. We've had some, not complaints really, but some feedback about it's kind of an awkward step, so.
Yeah.
We just make a couple of 18 by 32 by 8-inch steps and screw them through. It'll be inexpensive and quick. So there's that, and then Steve and I, once the leaves dry out up at Bonnie Hill, we're gonna take our blowers up there and blow the leaves off the trails. You can't really see the trail right now, so.
Right. It's doing in the way nature does, its inimitable way. It's trying to cover up the trail and make it disappear.
Right.
And that sounds like a reasonable idea.
Yeah, it'll be quick, it's just a matter of walking short and blowing off, so we just let it dry out a little bit first.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know. So that's kind of it for what's going on, so good progress up there. And Chris has got the trails, the perimeter trails well mowed, and he went over them again today, so they're in good shape for folks to walk
This is around the meadows?
around the meadows, around all three meadows.
Yeah. Thank you. I actually received a little postcard note saying thank you from a lady who lives on High Street, and it was co-signed by her dog, so to speak. And even, there were no details given, but I'm pretty sure it was appreciating the perimeter mowing on the
That might be the one we saw today up there.
Yeah, because she said she mentioned Bell.
Oh,
Did she mention the dog's name? It was a dog named Gracie?
Yeah, I know who she is.
A fairly
Yeah.
compact, tan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ran
She's
into her.
really nice.
She was up there today.
Yeah.
I love her.
She lives
She's
on
really
High
nice.
Street, and she appreciates it.
Gracie's a regular there.
She was all over.
She must think I live there.
She's a regular there.
Yeah, but
So that was a good thing.
we've always aspired to have our conservation areas be really appreciated, especially by the people who live next to them, and this is an example of that.
Oh, we did relocate, we will relocate your kiosk that was up there.
Oh, yeah,
We took it out, so
Yeah.
we'll plant it.
yeah, about 6 or 7 years ago, Rob McDonald and I installed something, we literally put a stake in the ground before it was conservation land, explained grass meadows and things like that, trying to get people to get on board with protecting it. And turns out a better location for that would be right where the trail from Bonnie Hill Lane, the street comes through the boardwalk through and makes a right angle turn onto the other. That bend is a good place for it, we think.
We can put it there. We have another sign that has a meadow on it too, but we can put it there if you want.
Well, I'm just saying the old sign that you're gonna move, if you
Yeah.
moved it 100 yards to the south,
Yeah, we can put it there.
that was my first thought.
Okay, we can put that there. It's-
Other signs were open to whatever the...
Well, with the other meadow sign, we can put the other meadow sign as you get into the middle now.
Right, it
We
seems,
already dug 2 holes, we just put 1 in each.
okay,
One of them is right there.
we'll, appreciate all of that.
So that should be all wrapped up tomorrow.
Once those excellent things, which are imminent, get happening, we can check back with, Mary Ann Damasio and others, whoever the appropriate ones are, on if they want to have an official, I would say almost a ribbon cutting for the Bonnie Hill Trail. Make it a little news event. And, with signs there, how could it possibly be more photogenic?
Would it be before spring?
Oh, yeah.
We
ASAP.
should be all set in a week.
I would say if there's a nice sunny Sunday afternoon, starting in about a week, with all due lead time or whatever, we should go for it.
Yeah,
So more like we would plan it like a week or 2 in advance.
Yeah, just so it could get out in the paper or word of mouth or Facebook or whatever.
Well, the signs will be all done tomorrow.
Yeah,
And just as soon as we have a couple of dry days, we can blow the leaves off.
Yeah.
That's just the quick.
yeah.
So that's all set. The only other thing I had on my list here was at John Kemet's request, from about a month ago on Hanson Day, I sent him a proposal he wanted us to talk to him about signage for properties. So I sent him a request. He said he'd help me with the application. So I sent all that information to him, and as far as pricing and how many we needed and all that. And if we can get that through community preservation, it'll save money on our budget. If not, we can still do the signs.
This would be sort of front door signage for our conservation properties?
What I did is, I don't have a copy of it with me. I can send a copy to him. I think I sent that to you, didn't I, Ron?
Yeah, I have a copy of it.
Yeah.
I can print it out.
I just gave him a proposal of how many kiosks we need and what size, and as well as a drawing. I got an Appalachian Mountain Club drawing of kiosk construction. So he's got that, and, you can send that out to everybody, I guess, Lon,
Yeah,
right?
I'll print it out, yeah.
And so maybe we can get movement from them. If not, then at least that's our list of what we need to do.
Question, is what's on John's mind and yours, something more or less like these synthetic materials or aluminum with materials mounted on it?
It's kiosk like we have. We need
Okay.
2 at Webster Billings, and we need another one, I forget where. I think we need 3 big large ones and 2 small ones. I forget where they are. They're on the list.
We actually have 2 very much underutilized kiosks in existence. One at Smith now Zelski,
Right.
and one at Indian Crossway.
Right. So I didn't want to replace them.
But what we'll do is the places that do not have anything,
Right.
give it.
So that's Webster Billings. I'd have to look at the list. I think there were 4 or 5.
Would we move the one in Indian Causeway?
No, I don't think we need to.
Well, the thing is,
It's way in already.
Well, you can see it from the parking lot.
with a parking area that's actually better defined, because right now is this okay, we don't know. You want people who arrive at a conservation to know it's an okay place to park. You're supposed to park there, you're not gonna get towed or anything. And secondly, that from whatever you get visually from there, should invite you further into the property. Sometimes people put a sign right there, and that's fine. But if the sign is a little ways in, you're gonna, gee, let's go see what that says.
Well, my concern, you guys, it wasn't a detailed list of a sign has to go right here, it's kind of a general, this is how many we need. It also included estimates for signage to attach to the.
In other words, how to populate the
Yeah.
kiosk.
So there's also an estimate for actual signs. But I didn't go into the gruesome details of what exactly the
Oh,
sign
yeah,
is.
so that would be later on anyway.
But it was a good estimate of the cost that we would need from them to do it.
Yeah, and I'll just say, since you mentioned, it was mentioned to you, community preservation,
They-
I know the Community Preservation Committee, of which John is the chair, is striving to and really needs to streamline their process, or their understanding of the right process, how to approve costs incurred when you spend CBC money, because there have been some unlooked for delays in people getting paid, contractors stuff getting paid for that, and there's no need of that, and this being worked on. It would make it more inviting to go that route, if the payments came through in a timely manner.
So I just thought I'd throw it out, and if it doesn't work with them, at least it gives us a working list of what we need.
Right, I think this is the right way to go. When we have priority and well-justified plans for doing projects, what it costs, what the specs are, et cetera, have that all worked out, so it's essentially shovel-ready, just waiting for the funds.
Well, these aren't. I mean,
Yeah.
there's actually a blueprint from Appalachian Mountain Club on the
Mhm.
kiosks.
That's great.
The other thing I had, and it's in conjunction with all this, is I thought it was a good idea, I mentioned it to you, Phil, the other day, and to Lon. I think we need to track volunteer hours on these projects, so that we have a record of how much, well, basically how much money we're saving in the town with volunteer effort. I think it would be useful to have it for lots of reasons. And Lon didn't seem to think it would be too big a problem to have a spreadsheet to
No.
track it.
Not at all.
You know, I don't mean commission, things you volunteer for the commission for, but these projects.
Although that's something we could do. So
Too, because that's saving money. I mean,
I would support that, but I think the volunteer thing is, which you don't want it to go completely untracked. I mean, we can kind of reconstruct what we do as commission members,
Right.
whether it's planting cedars or other things. But I like the idea. What does everyone else think?
I like it.
Well, it seems as if it's easy to do, and then if we need that information, we have it, you know, for town meeting, for our, whatever it is.
Yeah, and by the way, this would fall into the category, in my view, of the town doing things. People say, why doesn't the town do this? The town ought to do that. And the town is the person looking back at you in the mirror. Sometimes it's a paid employee, but not always.
Right.
And things that are a little bit less than rocket science that the volunteer can do, the town is doing it. And this would quantify it, I think it would put legs to the concept.
Yeah, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's easy to do, and we have it if we ever need it.
Oh, and one place it'd be very good for is any, either one current one, but also future projects where you say you have a grant, and one of the matching pieces of the town office is volunteer hours. We have a system for tracking them. There it is.
Right.
It just falls right into place.
Right.
I think we're all in agreement that we should track the volunteer hours.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let the minutes show by consensus that is a plan to be developed.
I guess the only small detail is when to start doing that. Do we do anything retroactive, or do we just start somewhere?
Start November 1st, 2023.
Okay. That's fine with me.
Everyone nods for consensus?
Okay.
There it is. Now, today.
So we already got about 6 hours in today.
you're talking, we're gonna count commissioners' hours too.
Well,
I like it.
I would suggest, because we are no less volunteers than people aren't commissioners volunteering. We're volunteering.
Yeah.
We do these
Yeah.
things. Yeah. So, amen to all that.
Okay,
Anytime I've got in this chair and out in the world doing things, I'm
So what do you do, just let Ron know?
yeah.
Lon, his hearing is loud.
Send me an email and I'll add it to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what we could do is just, at a meeting, we just remind, hey,
Mhm.
hear from you guys. Yeah, it should be easy.
Okay.
Okay, well, that probably is enough.
Okay, if you think of anything else, great, but as far as open space acquisition, I already touched on that. The Hubble thing is the main thing right now, and we'll see going forward how it goes.
I guess for the people who weren't at that stormwater lecture,
Oh, let's mention that, because that comes under the, I guess, the good of the order type heading.
yeah,
The stormwater lecture. We went to a workshop on, basically, stormwater plans for projects. It was presented by a gentleman who lives in Westboro, and who's been on the Westboro
we
Conservation.
almost got a feeling he was talking about our region.
Well, you know, this gentleman's been in the Westboro Conservation Commission since 2005, so 18 years. He is a lead geoscientist and engineer. He is part of a business that designs and installs these things, but also he, as a conservation commissioner in his town, looks at things that are submitted, proposals submitted, and is part of presenting proposals to other commissions in other towns. And he made some very good points, had a PowerPoint that was very informative, and we have access to that. I think everyone in the commission and the staff should be able to look at that. But some of the highlights, Ed, Dave, you can help me with this. He basically said, engineers owe it to us, or proponents, advocates or proponents or applicants owe it to commissions to make them understandable. And they shouldn't be allowed to just speak engineering ease and say, this is standard engineering practice, you don't need to know about it. No, that's both insulting and inappropriate. He also is a big advocate of living up to the state requirement, which is for every infiltration basin to have 3 boreholes, 3 borings, with complete information, not just, it was a hole, but detailed information of what's found. And he had case study examples of surprises that were found. This reminded us very much of what we did for a recent project. We asked them to drill holes, which they were not eager to do, but we in the state said they should, and eventually did something along those lines. But we felt fully validated in the degree to which we held feet to the fire on that recent project, and we think that the tools that he offered, including their own or his own for the Westboro Conservation Commission, a 9-point checklist, things that a plan must have before you can consider it, could be very useful to us, and it seems like it's available through that presentation.
Yeah, I didn't open it, so I don't know if that was sent or not.
We saw it, it was one of the things on the screen.
Okay, well, that would have been it. But at any rate, he said we could get it from him.
Ed, what else did he say?
No, you kind of covered what I...
Well, he did say that some of the DEP requirements for stormwater management, he felt were not adequate to address current issues.
Oh,
Yeah, in the handbook, yeah.
his main point was the importance of understanding hydrogeology, how the water moves through the soil and the substrate, because it's all about that. It's all about water soaking in or failing to soak in, and then moving away in a way that it really truly makes what falls on the ground part of the groundwater, how it mounds, and what can cause failure of that, and the different ways that water molecules and droplets interact with different types of soil particles, whether sand, gravel, or glacial till, familiar term here, and highly, highly applicable to us in this town. He also made the excellent point that unless you're in a place that's all basically sand, thinking like Plymouth and the Cape, what people find is that more and more applications are coming in to put in stormwater management on soils that are not necessarily optimal. They might be resistant to absorbing water the way you'd like, an engineer would like, and all the more reason to hold their feet to the fire. This gentleman also sort of put a ribbon on it together, because he said he recently done some work in the town of Halifax, and it seemed like he had to really apply these issues there. And we know a little bit about Halifax since we're right next door to it, and I know we see a lot of individual homes in Halifax where you have this former agricultural land, and there's a house, but the house is up on an artificially built hill, and who knows if those were the sorts of projects he was talking about, but again, we think this will be useful. So if we can, I think we'd like to get hold of and even print out, have as a reference on our shelves or in our hands to the extent we so desire, that information. It was that useful.
Did you suggest the book was going to be done, the guidelines were going to be redone, the handbook?
The state, Frank, you may have your finger on this pulse, the state stormwater handbook, or whatever the exact title of that is, we got the sense that a new edition may be coming out, or at least updates to the contents of such. Any thoughts?
There are several committees working on pieces of the book, and they're kind of stalled, actually. 2023, and it didn't come out. So now it's 2024. So it's coming, but it's coming slowly.
Well, it's a topic that, as we have proven thoroughly in this room, is of strong interest and high importance.
One of the interesting things about stormwater requirements from the DEP is that when they talk about infiltration and detention, they refer to the handbook called Hydrology for Conservation Commissioners. And if you've ever read it, it doesn't tell you anything at all about infiltration and detention basins. It's just not there. Part of the reason why I tried to study up on the actual handbook itself, which is 3 volumes of voluminous wording, was that the reference to the Conservation Commission book, which is about that big, little blue binder, doesn't tell you anything. If you're a conservation commissioner and you want to do hydrology and hydrogeology, that is not a good reference. It was put out in 2005, so it really needs a lot of work to bring it up to date. And everybody knows there are holes in the stormwater management regulations now.
As this gentleman was saying, yes.
One of the biggest ones is the rainfall, the required rainfall that you use in your calculations it comes from 1960. It's been updated a couple of times since then, but the DEP hasn't adopted it.
So a 100-year storm now would be defined in reality quite differently from what it was way back then.
The 100-year storm in the 1960 version is about a 50-year storm now. That's how much has changed. He's right on if he's telling you things need to change.
That's what he said, yeah.
I am personally struck by the vagueness of even how those terms, those labels are used. I think it should be something like a 10-inch storm, or a 5-inch storm, or a 12-inch storm. Never mind how many years it takes. Those are theoretical things, but the actual measure of the depth of the rain falling are real things today, about which there can be no question, because you have the number right in front of you. But be that as it may, I think working with the glacial pace of the regulations and things, and this newly focused information, we should just do the best we can. One other final thing we liked about the presentation is he said, I'm going to give you like a semester's worth of geological training in 5 minutes here. And he showed what a mile of ice can do to a mixed up jumble of things on below it, and what it does to the microstructure of the soil, and therefore what it does to water molecules moving through it. Very appropriate, we thought.
Yeah.
You would have enjoyed this,
In
right?
an hour and 15 minutes, he was amazing, he really was.
Well, if you can get his presentation,
We have it,
Get it.
they already sent it up.
Let's, I think we should, however else we share it, we should have it available in print in the office with a little binder on it with the title of his presentation.
Okay.
he didn't give you a video presentation though, huh?
No, just PowerPoint, but it was vivid and detail-packed with illustrations as well as words. And we made notes.
Yeah, they sent it out, so.
Yeah.
We can,
Okay, I'll print it out, yep.
It was, in terms of the value and the clarity of the information and the quantity of it, it was the best part of the day. So, onward.
yeah, anyway, good stuff.
Anything else before we move to our old business of invoice approvals? let's,
Do
proceed.
you have anything from Green Hill?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, let's use that, Steve.
Yeah, that's why I came here at the last second. Green Hanson actually moved their meeting so they could attend. I hadn't, been talking with Dave, but both of us were fed up with picking up nips throughout the town, so we wanted to, send it on Facebook, we wanted to try to start a citizen petition to get the ban. I mentioned at the Lark that she introduced me to, Marion from, Green Hanson,
Yep.
and, so to say that they're a little ahead of, me on this is an understatement. They've been at this for about a year now. Their plan is they wanna have all the ducks in a row, they wanna have all the stats, all the figures, anything that can possibly contest it, so that they have all it ready to go with PowerPoint if necessary, that probably is a little extreme.
Well, anticipate questions or oppositions.
Yes, exactly. And so they had all the information right there already. One of the guys, I forget his name, Adam, I think it was. So I thought I was coming in there to suggest the thing to them, and I was like, no, actually, they've been at it for some time now. So one of the things they had suggested was to involve conservation. I did tell them, it's a little outside of our jurisdiction, but, we don't usually protection in our state and stuff like that, but it's in line with our general.
It falls on the heading of land management, if you will.
Yeah.
If they're chucking nips all over our property, then we do care.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I thought, like, it's still in the same ballpark of what we do. So one of the thoughts that I had was, I was prepared to do a citizen petition myself, I actually got the paperwork and everything. They would obviously sign on, they're not an official organization, so they would just be, have enough private citizens signing it. They had said to bounce it off the commission to see if it was something the commission would want to at least sponsor. Not necessarily, well, you can take the more extreme route if the commission actually oppose it. Or just simply say that all of the commissioners, have said they support it, or if we do, that is. So those are just some of the things that got brought up. I said I'd bring it up in a half hour when I got to the, conservation meeting. But, they have the wording in place. One of the guys who's got all the legwork, he's way ahead. He's got the wording in place that was used for Plymouth, and it passed over there. The same wording with a minor variation was used in Halifax, and I don't know if that resulted in that one. I think.
Is this a proposal for an article to ban this
It
in town?
is, yes. It's a-
So a town bylaw, basically, is what we're talking about.
Yes, a town bylaw, and it would be at the May town meeting.
And it would just ban sale of.
In Salem, yes.
Okay. Have they anticipated and looked into what the attitudes are of the retailers who do sell?
They have, actually.
And what are we hearing?
So, they're not super thrilled about it, but they're also not super going to oppose it, like some of the other towns were. They did say that they sell on average 300 a day, and they average about $2 a whack, so they lose $600, but that's not all profit, and it's not like they're gonna not make sales, they'll just turn around and buy
Yeah,
mine.
when you go into a convenience store to buy, let's say, a bottle of water, and after you see all the other things on display, it seems like quite a bit of display area is dedicated to that type of product.
It is.
It's prominently displayed, sort of impulse or whatever. But,
Yeah.
so, however they quantify the response or qualify it, it's not like all the NIP sellers would rise up and present their own petition to not ban it. It's not like they would do that, right?
Yeah, and so the fellow that had gone and asked them about it, he got the impression that they weren't going to oppose it, they weren't happy with it, obviously it's lost some money for them, but it's not necessarily lost money for them.
Yeah.
They just sell different products.
If he went there and got an impression, excuse me, Steve, if he went there and got an impression, to me, that's not quite the same as doing a survey. I don't know how they did that, and I'm not asking you to summarize how he did that.
The only thing I know is that they went in and they actually talked to the owners of the stores. That was the only information that was given to me. Laura Kevin said she had done the same, because they had approached her about the idea of going a couple of different routes with it, one of which was to go do a presentation to the select board and have it go that way. But that is a lot more involved, and then the select board has to, there's a lot more that goes into it. So this decision is 10 signatures to stand out from Shaw's for a few minutes.
Well, that wouldn't take long to get.
No, 10 is very fast.
So, to me, it seems like it would be good, if we were to act on something officially, it'd be good to see in writing what it is we're acting on. And we're just giving a positive verbal report right now.
Yes, and since they only just, dumped a lot on me in 30 minutes, I did say, so all of these facts and figures that they've got, all of the information they even have a tracker when they've been recording how many nips they picked up for one person who's got in the thousands. So my couple hundred in the last few weeks was impressive.
Well, I know I see a lot on my lawn. I live on Route 27, so it's
I picked them up on you
Bill.
on that.
My thought is they're moving vigorously in that direction.
Yes.
They've got a lot of information. Inevitably, they'll condense it to writing.
So they're ready to do that, actually. I give them my email address. I'm going to be getting the write-up sent to me.
Because whatever it is they propose, and picture this, picture an article in a warrant for a town meeting, and then an explanation for that.
Yes.
That sort of information would be nice to have, if we were to act officially, in my view, personal view.
My intention is to actually have that at the next conservation
Plus, if
meeting.
it's a bylaw change, aren't there specific wordings that you have to use?
It would have to all be printed in the warrant.
Yeah, Green Police agreed to send it to a town council before even collecting a signature.
So, I don't know what anyone else thinks. I think that philosophically, I'm very positive inclined towards it. But before we have this commission vote on it, we'd like to see the written details and just be methodical
Yep.
as opposed to emotional.
I will have that at the next meeting.
Okay. We'll be here.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, my lawnmower's very tired of hitting those things.
Chris, did you have a chance to call the fellow with the mower?
Yeah, he's actually gonna meet us there tomorrow as well.
Oh, okay.
What are we hearing?
Chris has a lead on someone who does mowing, so we're looking to get at least an estimate of some sort on the cost.
So in other words, lining up potential contract mowing resources
Right,
to supplement whatever we would do
right,
on our own.
right. I just want to get a sense of what kind of cost.
Yeah, what's out, and I know from as recently as the meeting last Saturday, and other meetings and other subscriptions, if you look in the back of, let's say, Northern Forest magazine, at many different levels, there are contract mowers and things. People like Scott Johnson, he's mowing with a capital M.
But doesn't he mow for wildlands?
He
or-
does, Hingham Conservation.
Yeah.
See, that sort of, call it a satisfied client list would go a long way with us to being comfortable with anything we might do in the future.
So with a
Thank you.
little luck, we'll have something for the next meeting.
Sure. To develop a knowledge base for how to approach mowing, who potentially could help us, and what the cost would be. Anything else before we go to sign things? Signing the invoices? I'm not aware of any other things. Nothing on the agenda, so let's move to that.
This one, I'm not sure if you guys want to vote to have it come out of the Bonning Hill, the CPC, the trail sign.
Okay. This is,
Just gonna do a... Well,
yes,
this-
in other words, it says vote to submit to community preservation for payment submittal for the Bonnie Hill Trail. This is the signage. This, by the way, is, way back a couple of years ago, when we applied for the grant money for the Bonnie Hill Trail, we were required to have at least 20%, and we actually planned like 30% community match for the state grant, and that was almost all going to come from CPC, plus some volunteer hours. So I think this is good,
Okay.
to ask CPC for payment for this.
Yep.
But it goes along with what I said about CPC being prompt.
Yep, so if you notice, I talked to John, he came in and I kind of gave a summary of what we
Okay.
do. You'll see after you guys vote and sign, so what he'll do is, he'll have a copy of that and he'll sign this on their end,
No.
and then they can give it to the selectmen office.
Now, this will give him complete confidence as CPC chair that we, as the primary
Yeah.
customers of the work,
Yeah.
are happy with the work.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to submit the Bonnie Hill Trail invoice to CPC for payment.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? We have a vote. And here we go.
Signs came out really nice, but
That is nice to hear.
good, don't you think?
This one, I think is for,
Who is it for?
oh, this is the registry of deeds, that's to,
Oh, the registry.
yep, for the Smitty's. The extension,
Okay.
we did. And these two are for the Phragmites. One
The
in
Phragmites
yep,
work. Two parcels.
Yep.
Some of this work that we just got done has needed to be done for a long time, like the frags, so this is very good. So those are the four, right?
Mhm.
And once these all get signed, the chair is open to a motion to adjourn, and that will be very soon, something like 8:17 PM.
Oh, Frank, when I talked to the excavator down there about, he said anything watering that they'll do there, they're gonna pump it. They're gonna have a pump truck in, so they're really not gonna,
They're not gonna dump the water.
they're not gonna dump any water. So, pretty low.
That's a good idea, actually, since if they do hit groundwater, it's probably contaminated.
That's what he said, yeah. So he's gonna proactively just plan it.
Good. Take it away.
I would move we adjourn at 8:17 PM.
Second?
Moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? We are adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.